Well, it's getting a bit ridiculous now, isn't it? The amount of things I've changed on this car, and the last thing being the water pump. But I don't know if this is relevant. I don't think it's relevant at all. But since I changed the water pump, the engine on a cold start is not functioning properly. It cranks over, takes a couple of cranks to get it going, and it's slow on the pickup until the engine warms up. Once it's warmed up, it runs beautiful. So what I reckon the problem is, and there's only one thing left on the engine that hasn't been changed, and that's the cold start valve. So what we're going to do is pull the cold start valve off, I'll leave it connected and test it, and I'll take it from there. So let's go have a look at the cold start valve. Well, I've taken the cold start valve out. It's located, sits in there between those two screws, and has a plug over here. Now the first thing I'm going to do is just test the resistance across those two pins and see what we get. The resistance should be between 10 and 25 ohms. I'll just get my multimeter and do it now. Well, I got 4.5 ohms. I don't know if that's a bit low. It's maybe it's shot. But next thing I'm going to do is put it over the container, hook it up, and get my wife to crank the car, and we'll see if any petrol comes out at all. Okay, what I've done is I've just unclipped the pipe and twisted it up and put the valve back on it again with the plug in for the solenoid, put a container underneath it. I'm just going to get my assistant to crank the engine and see if any fuel comes out of it, and we'll take it from there. Here we go, the assistant's going to crank the engine. And here we go, we have nothing coming out whatsoever. Okay, that'll do, thank you. Nothing. The next test we're going to do is I'll put the multimeter across the plug here and see if we get any voltage when she's cranking the engine. Right, the next thing I did, and I've just done, is I got a couple of bits of wire, run them from the battery terminals, positive and negative, and I cranked the engine to build a bit of pressure up, and it had pressure behind it. So I just put the positive and negative wires onto the terminals here, and lo and behold, the fuel injector sprays. So we know that the fuel injector works. Now how these things work is we got the cold, well not cold, but temperature sensor at the back here. Yeah, there it is down here. Now that is brand new. It tells the brain how much power to put on this solenoid here. So I have an electrical problem somewhere here, and I don't think it's the temperature sensor at the rear. So this is a bit of a dilemma. I'll just keep working on it. Well, we know that the cold start valve works now, so we're down to an electrical problem, and there's our cold start valve, and this is the fuel pump, what do you call it, fuel pump relay, and as you can see it's switching our cold start valve. Now what I'm going to go is, I think that earth there might be broken, or bad earth. This is supplied via, well, it's incorporated with the over voltage protection relay up here. So our supply is coming in from the over voltage protection relay, and also it's this other wire here goes to the coil. Well, we know the coil's going all right and everything like that. So these relays, I've got the fuel pump relay and the over voltage protection relay are both new. So what I've got to do is ascertain whether the supply is actually coming from the over voltage fuel pump relay. So, but the trouble is now the car, I've used it and it's warmed up, and it runs perfectly when it's warmed up. So I've got to do this when it's cold and just check it out again sometime. Rightio, these are the wires for the cold start valve, and I've just peeled some tape from the loom here, and the brown wire is the negative. That's the one that goes to the frame of the car, and the black and the pink wire is the active. That's according to the book. The book could be wrong, it has been wrong in the past. What I'm going to do is cut this brown wire, join onto it and bolt it somewhere around the frame of the car for the negative, and I shall do it now. Rightio, I've put a straight connector on that brown wire and run it up through the firewall, and that's the problem. You cannot follow the loom, and it could be earthed or bolted anywhere as a negative on the frame of the car. And I just found a bolt, actually it's on the test plug here, and put a Ross Courtney on it and bolted my wire onto the frame of the car. So we'll give this a test, and if it's not the negative, well, it could be the positive. Well, if the book got the polarity wrong, the worst thing that can happen is I'll blow a fuse. Okay, here we go. Well, it's still not a good start. But we'll assume it's working. Okay, we'll assume that that was the problem. If not, I'd have to go back over it and look from the fuel pump relay back to make sure that that was running properly, like the powering up at 12 volts. But anyway, I think that was our problem.